Hello, welcome. Welcome to our Fashion Means Business Fashion Talks on the future of showcasing. It's with great pleasure that I welcome the three creative directors across the schools of Media and Comms, School of Design and Technology, and the Fashion Business School at London College of Fashion. So today the focus is very much on showcasing of student work. So the restrictions imposed during the pandemic has meant that we've all had to rely on digital mediums. We are on a roadmap of exiting lockdown. However, we thought it would be really appropriate ahead of us showcasing graduates' work, both postgraduate and undergraduate, to just discuss the future of showcasing work. So I would like to first of all introduce our panel. So we have Alexandra, who is going to be joining us from the School of Media and Comms, Ed, who's going to be joining us from the Fashion Business School, and Rob, who's joining us from the School of Design and Technology. So what I think will be really beneficial if each of you could perhaps just say a few words about yourselves and introduce us. So thank you very much for joining us today. So Alexandra, if I could start with you, please.
Yes, certainly. Thanks for having us, Hannah. It's a pleasure to join your sessions. So as you mentioned, I'm the creative director for the School of Media and Communication, where our students explore and practice disciplines ranging from photography, illustration, film, styling, production, and all the way to fashion media criticism and journalism. So really a wide scope of disciplines and types of work. I come from a futures research background, so I'm personally very interested in future modes of producing and showcasing work. So it'll be a pleasure to debate with all of you today.
Great, thank you very much. Ed, could I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Hannah. Hi, I'm Ed Stammers. I'm Programme Director for the Fashion Business School at LCF, as well as being a Creative Director. So I have my two hats on at various different times in the week. The Fashion Business School consists of programmes for product and innovation, marketing and branding, the School of Science, and also the School of Management, Fashion Management. So we have a real array of both academic and creative subjects within our programme. And in terms of outputs, the students can produce work ranging from dissertations to reports to physical artifacts and installations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ed. And Rob, could I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
I'm Rob Phillips, and I work in the School of Design and Technology. And our school pretty much does what it says on the tin. It's anything you're wearing has probably been designed, well, not probably been designed by our students, but that's kind of what we cater for. So everything from women's wear, menswear, sportswear, bespoke tailoring, any design three-dimensional course, that's what we cover. And yeah, I've been here for about 13 years, guiding the image of the school and helping the students have some sort of promotional platform in which to jump off and hopefully gain employment or at least some sort of promotion. Yeah, that's me.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So as we are soon to launch the Graduate Showcase, I think what will be really interesting will be to just get a bit of an insight of how each of the schools are planning to showcase the student work. So perhaps if I could start with you, Rob, if that's okay.
That's not fair. Yeah, of course. How are we showcasing the work? Yeah, so everything digitally this year, born out of the beginning of the year where we thought, what can we offer? What can we guarantee that we can commit to and deliver for the students in terms of a promotional showcasing? We drifted quite swiftly away from physical shows because in January, coming March, I think everyone will realise that the days, things were changing on the daily and you just couldn't pin anything down. So we had to think, what can we pin down? What can we do? So in a strange way, we went down quite a classic route, or I chose to go down a classic route of film, making some films about our students' work. So both MA and BA in a very similar way to keep a good portfolio, a nice sort of aesthetic running through everything. Yeah, so we pretty much chose films. This isn't necessarily new to our school. It's something we've done for years. I guess the newness this year is we could actually film every student's piece of work. So for the first time ever, we've actually got an enormous archive and catalogue of 2021's cohort, which is amazing, as well as beautiful promotional assets that we can, we and the students can use. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. So it's kind of a traditional route, really. Just happens to be in a digital platform.
Can I just ask, actually, Rob, because we did have a brief catch up before the session today, and you did sort of share with us how you actually managed to sort of present the films, in the sense that obviously there were a substitute to the catwalks. What sort of techniques did you use so that those that are watching could actually see the kind of designs in their entirety?
Yeah, so obviously film, model, choreography, that's everything is filmed either in a rotation or close-up walking, so you can get a sense of detail as well as a sense of aesthetic and inspiration. But yeah, I mean, it makes it sound not particularly exciting, doesn't it? But we're just using film. But I think it's a beautiful media. It's how you use it, how you compose it, and it's definitely not a substitute. If anything, I think if we look at the idea of catwalk and how we present students, not only do you have to think of the landscape of education and loads of other universities, loads of catwalk shows, and all these students having practically each look, about 5 seconds on a film or something like, I mean, it is so fast, it's unbelievable. And to be lost, it's quite easy to be lost in that sea of graduates. Whereas actually now something we've made where you can see the clothes clearly, you can replay, you get a real sense of how they fall, the fabrics, etc. I mean, it's definitely not a substitute. I actually think it was a better direction, as well as the students getting assets, professional assets from a professional, heavily experienced team, which they ordinarily wouldn't get. So yeah, sorry, does that answer that question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much. I'm just going to pass over to you, Alexandra, just to give us a little bit of insight of how you are showcasing your students' work at the School of Media and Comms.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say first, Rob, we're all very excited to see the films, and I'm sure they're going to look. Don't downplay them, please.
No, I'm not downplaying. They are clean and clear, as they should be.
So at the School of Media and Communication, we're adopting a hybrid model of showcasing this year, which means that we're offering both digital opportunities, which are the kind of key primary channel for promoting students' work, and physical opportunities. And the two are actually complementing each other. They serve different purposes and they cater to different audiences. So we're asking our students to upload their work to 2 digital platforms, the UAL Graduate Showcase and a dedicated platform for the School of Media and Communication. And again, each of these platforms offers them a different advantage and a different set of opportunities. With the UAL Graduate Showcase, you obviously have the amazing reach of a UAL-wide platform. And I think what's really exciting that uploading student work to that platform allows them to place their projects in the context of not just London College of Fashion, but University of the Arts London, and seeing these kind of shared themes, connections, synergies between the different colleges and between the different courses is really, really exciting. And I think something that will help us imagine how our disciplines can converge a bit more in the future, or at least it would be great if it can act as a tool for doing that. And then on the other hand, we have our dedicated platform for the School of Media and Communication. And that felt really important to us, so that we can design user experiences that are specific to our disciplines, that don't offer kind of this one template, one format for all types of work, because our students, I think, similarly to what Ed has mentioned, produce both creative and academic work that is very visually led and is easy to present and speaks for itself, and work that requires context and requires text and requires maybe audio and all these other elements in order to be properly accessible online. So on this website, we're going to have 3 different spaces, each dedicated to one program area within our school. So we have an interactive gallery for the most visual work. we have a 3-dimensional conceptual map for the communication projects, where research work is tagged against conceptual coordinates, which is really, really exciting. And we have this sort of virtual theatre space for presenting work from the Design for Performance courses. So I think that will be hugely exciting to be able to really cater to the differences between our disciplines through user experience. But that digital offering is only one side of what we're doing this year. The other key component is, of course, a sort of a physical event, a show, which we're all doing together, I should say, not just our school. This is for the whole London College of Fashion, which will take place in Victoria House basement in Bloomsbury Square in July. And we really wanted the physical and the virtual showcase to speak to each other, to influence each other, to create this kind of shared experience of the work, rather than being the digital versus the physical. So we try to translate the UX, the user experiences that we devised for the virtual space into physical embodied experiences. And I don't want to give too much away, but one really exciting example is an interactive installation we're building called Telekinesis, which allows the viewer to take control of this kind of large polyptych of 7 human-sized screens by connecting with their mobile. And they can then play with the screen to kind of go through the different projects in a really poetic, kind of slow way. So it's kind of like turning swiping left and right into this poetic, immersive experience. And we'll have much more of that. So yeah, exciting.
Great, thank you very much. And Ed, maybe could you please outline how Fashion Business School is going to be presenting or showcasing student work this year?
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. The Victoria House live exhibition this year is the first opportunity that the Fashion Business School has had or has been invited to be involved in a London College of Fashion graduate exhibition event. So we're really excited by this opportunity, especially presenting work alongside the other 2 schools, the schools of Design and Technology and the schools of Social Media Communication. I feel that this gives Fashion Business School a real high level of exposure in terms of the creative work that our students produce. All 8 undergraduate courses will be represented at Victoria House, which is fantastic. And we're using fully digital sort of presentations of our work in order to sort of elevate the identity of Fashion Business School within London College of Fashion. We'll be using a range of high definition projectors and high definition LCD screens that will present final major project posters across all courses, as well as final major project presentation recordings that have been produced and edited by our students. Final major project poster extracts will also be available, which will have QR codes that link to full dissertations that can be accessed on mobile devices at the exhibition. And also the visual merchandising and branding students have produced some really exciting spatial visualization walkthroughs, which will be on the show reels and really give the sort of sense of the 3D space through the digital platform that it's been presented on. In terms of the UAL graduate showcase that Alex has just mentioned, this is a really great opportunity in terms of being able to access and interact with students' work. Students have taken the opportunity to upload their work to the showcase platform, and it really does bring a great level of, I think, inclusivity for all graduating students at the live exhibition event, and also an element of interactivity for SBS students where they can actually access their own work independently. In terms of exhibiting work and how this is, again, just such a great opportunity for the Fashion Business School. Only 3 courses have previously had FMP or final major project course specific graduate showcase exhibitions that were previously held at the John Princes Street site. And they consisted of printed A1 posters, window displays from the VM students, various 3D models and artifacts that were produced, and then VR interactive presentation experiences. So being able to transfer this content on a purely sort of digital platform and present our work at the physical space at Victoria House is just a great window of opportunity for us to really put the creative elements of Fashion Business School on the map and integrate in with the activities and exhibition setups like throughout the whole of London College of Fashion.
Great, thank you very much. So some really sort of innovative, interesting ways that we at London College of Fashion are presenting student work. Kind of reflecting on what we've done previous, it really is something very different, a different approach, given the current restrictions that we find ourselves in, even though we are sort of gradually on this, easing our way out of lockdown, and we're on this roadmap out of lockdown. Be really interesting to sort of get your kind of thoughts on, thinking about what we've done previously, thinking about what we're planning to do this year, and then thinking ahead, because there's quite a lot of discussion across the industry of, are we going to go back to showcasing work how we did pre-COVID, or are we going to do something totally different and just rely 100% on digital presentation of work, or are we going to be looking at more of a hybrid sort of method of presenting work? And if we just look at sort of the fashion calendar, we've got some brands presenting digitally, we've got others that are opting for catwalks, we've got others that are opting for physical presentation. We've also got others that are looking to presenting within different timeframes. So perhaps if I could start with you, Alexandra, and just ask your opinion of sort of looking ahead. What is the future of showcasing student work?
I think we should start thinking about this kind of physical versus digital or virtual, and I think we should just kind of accept that the two will continue to augment each other and sort of offer different advantages. I imagine that future is hybrid simply because it is of advantage to our students and to us. And I believe that if we're talking in the context of sort of fashion industry and catwalks, it might be that for some brands, the choice of offering a more kind of exclusive small event for a physical only audience is the way to go. I believe that as an educational institution, we have to open up the access to as many people as possible. And I think that's where a hybrid approach really works much better for us. And I think, it's worth being kind of honest about the different types of experience. I don't think we can argue that the virtual show experience can at the moment compete with the physical experience. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't replace that kind of sense of sharing space with people, sharing an experience, seeing them react to work and being seen by them. I think there's a kind of level of excitement and emotion that maybe cannot be replicated in a digital space. But I think after, nearly 18 months of being connected globally and having access to all these amazing events, it wouldn't feel like enough to just open this opportunity for a very small group of people. So, physical exhibitions were very exclusive always because they're so geographically limiting, and with COVID restrictions, we have even tighter limits on how many people we can open this up to. And I think now that we've kind of opened up access through virtual means, it would be a mistake to sort of revoke it and to make it so exclusive again. So just to give you an idea of the sort of scope and scale and how virtual can bring in new audiences, we launched our School of Media and Communication platform for the postgraduate students in February because they graduate earlier. They will be shown at Victoria House as well, but we wanted to celebrate them at the time. And since February, we've had 25,000 page views, and that's for a small, organically growing platform that's not UAL Graduate Showcase, that's just literally us sharing through social media channels and student pushing work through. That's 12, 13 times more than the amount of people we'll be able to welcome to Victoria House. And also it has the longevity of being available online for a much longer period of time. And what's really important for me and for students, I think, is that the traffic is coming to us from all sorts of places around the world. We have really high volumes coming from the US, from China, from India, from Taiwan, from Peru, from South Korea. So, you know, even back in the days when we could fly anywhere, it's very unlikely we would get all of these people to view the work. And I think that's really my main argument for saying that the future of showcasing will be hybrid, just because it does bring those amazing advantages. And I think what we have to work on is really introducing sort of production models and figuring out how you can create something that is both physical and digital, rather than having to work on two separate projects.
Really exciting times, you know, sort of being innovative and creative, and sort of taking the advantages from sort of both the digital and physical world and combining. Rob, you alluded to the use of films and the benefits of filming collections, in the sense that you know, the observer can sort of slow down, replay, relook, look at detail. What are your thoughts going forward for the future of showcasing students' work at the School of Design and Technology?
Oh God, I guess the first question really is why? Why are you showing, and what's the point? And there is a large sort of habitual and cultural connection to catwalks and this physical catwalk, of which is great for a brand who's showing, you know, 30 looks for themselves. It doesn't really cater necessarily for the demographic that we have studying with us. So always, why are we doing it? What's the point in doing it? I really hate things like selection, hierarchy, things where we only choose a certain project to show. Fashion's a huge industry, and everyone has different tastes, and there's a reason why you buy something different to what I buy, and thus it's no different for me for students. Is everyone has something to say, whether you like it or not. And so how do you cater for this? And I really believe the catwalk doesn't fit that at all. Maybe more presentations or physical presentations might work. But yeah, and definitely a hybrid of digital and physical. Physical often to show off something which needs a physical space to be seen for whatever reason that might be. But yeah, I guess for us going forward, we really do have to question catwalk and why we're so entrenched in it being there, because I don't know, I just don't know what it offers us anymore. And it doesn't necessarily fit our demographic. We have a huge diverse demographic of students all doing completely different things. And it's just not the way to see their work. Whereas of course, when you make films, you get much more of a deeper insight into that person. And I think that's kind of vital. I guess it's maybe, if you think about how we go to the cinema, is that how students show their films, and they're around afterwards to answer questions, to have that interaction with people. I don't think we should lose connection with people, and I don't think we should lose physical spaces, but I think now is the absolute time to rethink what that looks like and why it looks like that. Yeah. For my school, like I say, we're not a singular house. We're not Louis Vuitton, or we're not Prada. We are lots and lots of names. And it's how do you best frame those names and give them the best starting point they possibly can have equally across the board. And that is really, really challenging. So I guess you answer a question with a question, is we have to ask why we're doing it, what's its purpose, you know, and then maybe we can start to build something dynamic and progressive. But weaning people away from catwalk is very difficult, because it's been there for so long. Yeah,
and there's that association, isn't there, with the fashion industry and catwalks, and sort of the drama and the theatre of a catwalk. But yeah, I think placing those kind of questions like, you know, what are we trying to achieve and why and for who, I think is a very good starting point, because, you know, we can then sort of work back and go, right, okay, so how do we answer these questions? What are the solutions to these questions that we've placed?
I think far too often people use the excuse of, well, when you're a physical show, you see how the clothes move, you see, etc., etc. Yeah, I completely get that. You can see that in a film as well. And let's be honest. I mean, I've been to a few Chanel shows. If you've ever seen a Chanel show, the set is it's like the size of Wembley Stadium. And so if you're somewhere in the back rows, of which, you know, I would be, seeing the movement and then those closed, not quite convinced. So yeah, I don't know. We have a love of catwalk, and we love that theatre, you know, probably. I mean, I blame Alexander McQueen and all those designers that made catwalk, you know, a performance arena. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think we have to think we are a different audience. We're a different demographic. And the whole point of education is to be ahead of industry and to inform industry, not to supply industry. So in theory, we should be able to do something a lot more, dynamic or progressive or challenging. And I think we can definitely do that.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And Ed, so this is the first time that Fashion Business School is actually showcasing student work alongside the other two schools. But sort of looking ahead and thinking about, you know, what the showcase represents for this year, you know, how do you sort of foresee the future of showcasing student work?
Well, I think for the majority of Fashion Business School project outputs, they're particularly suitable for this transition to digital presentation platforms. I think the really important element here is for students to develop their application of appropriate uses of the suitable technologies that are available. Through digitalization, I think we can definitely improve the impact of our student presentations, but also the communication of the theoretical elements of their work. I think also fashion business students can definitely take inspiration from the use of digital technologies within the fashion industry, especially the retail sector. You know, some really innovative ideas have been applied on the high street in order to negate this physical space element. There's technology interaction sort of online, but also sort of in-store technologies as well. And we're seeing that already integrating in over the years. As I mentioned earlier, VM students have used VR technologies. And I think I really support this hybrid direction that both Alex and Rob have mentioned earlier, in that the physical has a place or a role to play alongside digital in, I think, in all future exhibitions. But I think it's really important that our students and staff and teams just really appreciate the strength in balance from presenting work and displaying and exhibiting graduate work through the use of both platforms sort of in tandem.
Thank you very much. So we're all in agreement then that, you know, looking ahead, it's sort of a hybrid hybrid approach to showcasing student work, and, you know, taking the benefits of both mediums. I think what would be really nice to do now is just to open up the discussion to those that are attending the talk today. If anyone has any questions, you know, please could you put them into the Q&A, and we can put them to the floor and hopefully respond. So any questions? It takes a little while for questions to come through.
I just want to add while we wait, I think it's exciting to see that it's not sort of just us adopting this hybrid model of showcasing, but that we're seeing a lot of cultural institutions, a lot of galleries, museums, theatres taking on learnings from how they presented work during the pandemic and applying them now as we're sort of emerging out of lockdown. And I think that's sort of a cultural signifier for us to say, okay, we're all kind of heading in this direction. So, you know, the new exhibition at the V&A, Alice in Wonderland, was actually launched with a VR experience, again, opening up access to everyone, but then inviting the people who are based locally to come and see the show. And then in theatre, something that's really important for our students, because we teach both fashion and performance. And some of you would have seen a couple of months ago, the Royal Shakespeare Company deliver a first virtual reality theatre show, The Dream, based on Midsummer's Night Dream, obviously, which was hugely successful, although had some technical glitches. And as a learning from that, they've now opened all of their rehearsals, they're streaming to the public, all of their rehearsals, to kind of allow people to see the behind the scenes and to really engage with the craft of performance and theatre. And again, kind of that idea of opening up access through technology, which I think is a really good sign of a shift kind of spanning different industries. Yeah, so just wanted to add that in. It's not just us, we're not alone on this journey.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I think also just that opening up, is something that, we have alluded to sort of when we've just been discussing the benefits of having more of a hybrid event, being able to have a far greater reach, but also this creation of community. And perhaps communities in the past only ever been associated with the physical space. But if we think about throughout lockdown, we've had this sort of element of community through the use of social media and other digital platforms. And actually the idea that, we can have a community, but maybe a far wider community than perhaps we have had when we've only relied on the physical world.
It's also quite generational, isn't it? Because I've noticed that lots of people have, for example, to hark back at the idea of catwalk, the idea of physical, are maybe of my age or older. And you have to think when you're in the jobs that we are is, well, hold on, generationally, is what are young people doing and how do they connect with the world? And most of it is through this. It's through a laptop, it's through a screen, and how they reach out and connect to others, whether it be through their own lives and TikTok, etc., etc. So the idea of digital now being this, it's the substitute for physical. Actually, no, because most young people are keep in touch with the world through this. This is the most relevant way you can connect with them right now. And like someone said a minute ago, that global reach that you have with video, whatever it might be, is amazing. And you should be connecting globally. It shouldn't be something which is just isolated and local.
Yeah, and it's been really nice because I've spent a bit of time with some of the recently graduated students over the past couple of weeks, creating short films of them outlining their final major projects. So trying to make something that was sort of quite text-based, sort of something that we can actually present sort of visually and auditory as well. And just really interesting sort of hearing their enthusiasm that actually the reach was far greater than it would have been if it been a physical exhibition where we had a limited number of attendees, and the excitement that they could actually share their experience with friends and family wherever they may be located, particularly given that a lot of our students are scattered around the world at the moment for reasons for current pandemic. So yeah.
I totally agree, Hannah. And I think as well, another element that really has to be sort of high on the agenda is this sort of increased levels and standards of interactivity with digital content, whether that's digital content that is within a physical space. I think there's a high level generational expectation, as Rob just mentioned, in terms of the expectation of what they're going to, the interaction opportunities with work or immersive technologies, all those kind of elements. And that's what we really need to look at delivering is with using these digital platforms to engage in almost like that third space kind of concept that they can immerse themselves in, and stimulated by the work that we're delivering, but then also the viewer or the individual that is interacting with that content can take some form of control and direction. And again, with the sort of spatial representations that we can now produce, their journey can be mapped out through the decisions that they make while interacting with the work that is delivered by our students. And I think that's just fantastic. A level of control given to the viewer, and these digital platforms, the way that they can facilitate that interaction. And I think moving forward, that is what's really going to sort of help bridge this gap, or this sort of traditional gap perhaps between our perception of digital presentation and physical presentation, and really bring this hybrid together effectively.
I think also what's going to be or is exciting, Alexandra, you referred to the number of visits so far to date to the School of Media and Comms showcase or platform, and actually to be able to sort of learn a little bit about how perhaps the viewer actually chooses to view the work. It could be very different to how, you know, we've perhaps chosen to display that work. So I think from that perspective as well, there's like, you know, it's exciting to be able to sort of get a different perspective and learn through the viewer and through their approach to viewing the work.
Absolutely, it's fascinating looking at Google Analytics for the views, and I think it could be a really interesting research project, because what you can see is not only where people are viewing from, but what they're viewing and where they go next. So let's say they watch a film project that, I don't know, looks at Korean identity and beauty, and they jump to a dissertation project that looks at a similar topic but through a completely different lens of a discipline. So I think it's really interesting to see the connections and see how our audiences actually kind of consume the projects and the content that we're presenting, and to learn from that and to allow for that to shape the future of how we present work. So I think hopefully looking further ahead, we can sort of create platforms, whether they're physical or digital, that respond in real time to these viewer preferences, viewer kind of paths that they take. And I think what's really exciting, sort of agreeing with Ed here, that creating that greater connection between how we show things physically and virtually, and the real potential, creative potential within that space of the two responding to each other, being much more connected, much more kind of interwoven. And I know that's something that we definitely want to explore with our move to Stratford with London College of Fashion, moving all of its different buildings together to Stratford in 2023, and the kind of new and innovative showcasing spaces there. So I think that will provide us with a completely new platform to explore the physical and digital together.
Yeah, and I think that's what's particularly exciting about the showcase this year. It's the three schools, you know, of London College of Fashion presenting together. So, and you know,
very much a prototype for the future.
A prototype for the future ahead of us moving to Stratford, where we will all be on one site. So, and you know, having looked at the plans for Stratford, the exhibition space and the opportunities that Stratford are going to give us as a university, as London College of Fashion, to be able to explore some of the opportunities of some of the innovations you spoke about today, and the hybrid way of presenting work and communicating with the community and with our students, but also with future graduates. Yeah, fantastic opportunity. I think what I liked, Alexandra, when we went through, had a little look at your platform, is that you'd spent time to sort of connect the work. So you kind of collated all of the work of, it was actually the postgraduate students' work we were looking at, and you sort of thought about how different projects and different kind of pieces of work could be connected to each other. But again, you know, perhaps looking at how viewers view that work, you know, you might suddenly wake up, actually, you know, that was our initial thoughts on how we presented work and how we connected work, but actually there is a different perception on how that work could be connected and how it can be linked. And we might see that across the schools, which could be really interesting as well, like, you know, just from one school to another. Yeah.
I think it's very tempting, you know, if we could apply sort of machine learning to adapt the connections that I've created in real time on a platform to respond to what people are actually viewing. So it's not my curation of the site, it's a real life, real time curation of these platforms. That would be very exciting. It would potentially make us redundant. So, you know, maybe further out into the future, but it's an exciting thought, I think, experimenting with these new technologies in that context as well of shaping the interactions.
Okay, so I certainly didn't mean to make it redundant. So thank you, all of you, for giving up your time today and for sharing your thoughts on showcasing, current and future. We have no questions in the chat, so I think we could just bring the conversation to a close. And looking forward very much to seeing the final showcases of work, and really just sort of experiencing that sort of showcase that both at Victoria House and also the UAL showcase. So thank you very much, all of you, for your time.
Thank you, Hannah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.